I'm Shahar Azani, and welcome to this very special Eye on Israel from Israel. We often hear of the geostrategic and geopolitical situation in Israel and become aware of the great sacrifices made by the brave men and women of the Israel Defense Forces. But once the news cycle ends, how often do we tend to think about those families left behind? The Israel Defense Forces is at the core, a pillar of Israeli society. And today, from Tel Aviv, we have the pleasure of learning about the heart beating at the heart of this core, the IDF Widows and Orphans organization, the sole representative of those left behind within Israeli society vis-a-vis the government and the world at large. Nir Barash is an IDFWO member, an IDFWO orphan. He's 27 and he has become as the organization tends to call it, an unfortunate direct beneficiary of this organization. Nir, pleasure to see you today.
Nice to meet you too, Shahar.
How are you?
I'm excited to see you. I'm excited to be here. I'm really glad to be here.
You know, we're sitting here at the IDFWO office in Tel Aviv. It looks like any other office, but the walls tell a different story. It tells a story of a family, tells a story of great pain. Share with us a little bit of your story.
Well, my story began when I was 7 years old.
7?
Yeah. My father was in the Shabak.
General Security Service.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was very close to retiring. He was 2 months away. And
right.
He gone to a trip with co-workers and my mom. And on the way back, I remember I was 7 years old. I was with my brother at home alone, and we called her to my mom to ask her when are you coming home?
Right.
And she said we're supposed to be back in 15 minutes. And I said, that's great. And we waited, and 10 minutes passed, and 20 minutes passed, and 30 minutes passed, and after 40 minutes passed, someone knocked on the door. And
someone knocked on the door?
Yeah. And what happened was that my brother gone to open the door. It was
your older brother?
Yeah. It was 12. And there was a cop, and he was starting to talk to my brother, and I was kind of scared. I gone back home. I didn't really want to listen, didn't really understand. And then my brother came home. He was very pale. He didn't talk.
He came inside back?
Yeah.
With the police officer?
No. He was alone. And we gone back to watch TV. And after a couple of more minutes...
But he came back pale? Did he tell you?
Nothing. I didn't realize something wrong. It's something I realized over the years, how pale he was, how shaken up he was. And what happened next was that there was another knock 10 minutes later, I think it was, and the police officer came again. And I was a little bit scared by now, and this is the moment I will never forget. The officer had the motorcycle bag in his hand, and he said, do not be afraid, it's not blood, it's strawberries. And the bag was broken, totally broken, and it was full of strawberry that were smashed together. At the first moment it really looked like blood, and then I realized something wrong happened. And I came to him and said, Asaf is my older brother. I said, Asaf, what happened? Asaf, what happened? Asaf, what happened? Like really annoying little kid that really scared. And then he shouted at me, the parents had an accident, had a car accident. And the next couple of days was really weird. My mom was sent to one hospital, my father to another one. My dad had brain damage. My mom physically got the worst physical
critical injuries.
Yeah, sorry. And apparently my father died on the spot from the heat, and my mom managed to recover. It was a long, hard recovery, but she managed to pull through.
And this is the moment when death knocks on your door, that you encounter or, introduced to the IDF Widows and Orphans organization.
Yeah. I can't even say that I was aware at this age that I'm part of this organization, because I never really knew what my father did. I think at least not until I was 10 or 11 years old, when I was a little bit more mature and managed to realize those kind of stuff. It was never easy to accept it fully as a child, but as you mature and grow, it's become part of you. You want to pass this, I can even say strength, if you want to call it like this, to other children like you, to help them gain something from your loss, so they won't have to deal with what you dealt, because they have the tools to accept it and work with it better.
What was your first experience, Nir, with the organization?
I was almost 13, and it was the trip of the bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah.
To North America?
Yeah.
So that's annually, usually, and takes place in the summer?
Yeah. And we usually go through all over America. We started, at least in our story, we started in first to see some of the families that invited us to their houses, and from there we've gone to a summer camp. It was amazing for me. It was something.
What was amazing?
To see kids like me, the same age, not necessarily the same age, but been through the same experience, some younger, some older, some the same age as me when I lost it. It was for me not being alone, like finally someone that will hear my story and won't be like, oh, like will manage to accept it, will manage to hear, manage to
Was that
understand.
a different experience than the one you had, let's say, in school?
Yeah, in school, for instance, kids, especially not in those kind of ages, don't have the ability to accept or mentally listen to you, because, okay, you have your loss, go away, we don't need it, it's too hard for us to listen to it.
And yet, during this trip abroad in North America?
I managed, I felt like I can speak out, like I can tell my story and won't be judged for it. And
because you were with other kids who experienced that kind of loss within that IDFWO family.
It felt like some kind of family.
How was your interaction with the Jewish community, the host families?
They were amazing. They wanted to listen to us. They wanted to hear our stories. It was actually kind of hard and scary, because until this point I never really spoke English so much. And they accepted us, and they really wanted to be there for us. And it was such an amazing experience.
What did you think about their embrace? Did it puzzle you that somebody who didn't know you would be so open, welcoming?
It was amazing. It gave, actually, even afterwards, I managed to keep in contact with some of them. I'm still friends with them on Facebook. They came to visit us when they came to Israel. And
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
What a great, important, big Jewish family.
Yeah, it's really feel like there's someone who cared, that someone that want to help, that it mattered to him. And
how did the trip help you? How did it change you?
I think it opened my eyes to realize that there are people like me. I'm not the only one. I have some people that can relate to me. I have some people, not even in this country, that want to listen and have the ability to accept me. And it made me feel like I'm not that different from other people. Like, I think until this age I felt very different from my other kids in school, because I was basically the only orphan in my town this age, because all other families were of the IDF lost. They were either young soldiers or very old men that they didn't really have kids my age. So
that experience was unique to you and how you grew up. You mentioned the age of 13. And, as a Jew, what comes immediately to mind is, bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
Growing up without your father. You mentioned Asaf, who was 12 when the terrible news were broken to you. Commemorating that event. Any memories of how you celebrated your bar mitzvah?
Yes, actually I have. For me it was at the Kotel. It was in the
Western Wall.
Yeah, I was with the organization.
Right.
They invited us, all the kids, to a fun day. They gave us gifts. They've been with us. They did with us the Aliyah Torah.
Right.
Right. It wasn't my birthday, and it wasn't alone. But actually, what made it so special is I wasn't alone. I was with other kids like me.
Right.
It was the symbolism behind it, and not the specific date that was important or mattered to me.
Right. So that was one of the more meaningful experiences you had.
Yeah.
How did you get to know Shlomi?
Shlomi, I first met at the when we spoke with him. He came to talk to us about the trip. He was the head manager of the trip to North America.
Right.
And at first I saw.
So that was within the organization before he assumed position as CEO.
Yeah.
When he was
just a guide.
Youth director.
Counselor.
Okay, counselor.
Yeah. And the first time I remember really talking to him, it was while we were on the trip. We were in Camp Shai, and we were just driving around, and I don't remember exactly what I spoke about. I think it was maybe about my story. I remember I spoke about it a lot because it finally had the door to talk about it someplace.
Right.
And I felt like he just listening to me, like he really being there, like he had such a huge heart. Not had, he still has, he's an amazing person. And I felt like he wanted to be there for us. He gave me so much at this moment, and I felt like I just want to spend more time with this person.
And now you're 27.
Yeah.
The organization was present in your life, your family's life, and then you served in the IDF.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any connection with the organization in the IDF? When did the organization reappear in your life?
After the trip, I didn't stay as much as I wanted to. And when I signed to the army, on my first day at my unit, I saw someone that really resembled someone from the trip. But I said, there's no way that's him.
Someone from
the trip
to North America?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said, there's no way that's him.
Israel is a small place.
Yeah, and then he said his name is Yoav, and it was exactly the name of the guy I remember. And somehow this guy that I was really not very interacted with in North America became, until this day, my very best friend.
Wow. You reconnected in the army. The IDF is the societal pillar of the state of Israel.
He brought me back to the organization, introduced me. He got me at first to the WhatsApp group of our age, and after a while, during the COVID times, I met with another girl from our age, and she introduced me back. He said, "Why are you not coming back to be a counselor?" And I said, "Well, I always wanted to. I never really had. It was never really the right moment for me because I always said I'll do it later." And I said, "You know what? Fine. Sign me in. I want to get in on this." And it was almost 3 years ago, and it's basically changed my life.
So you are now a counselor within the IDFWO. So as an orphan who grew up within the walls of this organization, assisted by it, now the tables have turned, and you are now the one providing assistance to those in need within the organization. What an incredible cycle.
It's when I see these kids, especially the most problematic ones, I see a lot of times myself, because Shahar, you see me right now as a grown man, but I had a really rough road. I was really a troubled child.
What did that mean? What does that explain to our viewers? Being troubled means what?
I didn't like people. I didn't like being with people around me. I like my alone time. I like being on my own. I hated the fact that I need to be surrounded by people, and I grew my hair. I gained weight. I didn't wash my clothes.
How were you able to turn your life around?
I think it was first of my mom that fought over me. She really fought hard so I won't give up to my life. And when I came to IDF, and I started to gain some real friends. And when I met my dog, I served in the OCATS, the K9 unit.
Right.
And actually I took my dog with me after this to the home. And
wow.
They really opened my eyes. They really changed my life. And they gave me the understanding of how much my life is in my own hand. And because of this, I managed to turn my life around. I lost weight. I managed to be in a lot of very important roles in other places and work. And I get in a lot of friends. And what I'm coming with when I'm going to these kids, when I'm going to those trips, is I want to be there to those kids and give them what some people couldn't give to me because they didn't know how to, not because they didn't want to. And I want that those kids will always know that they have this home and this someone to listen to when they come to me.
You know, otzma in Hebrew means strength, power. It also means, in the context of this organization, a camp that takes place here in Israel several times a year, correct?
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, that was part of Shlomi's vision for the organization. Tell us a little bit about your experience within Otzma and how that helped put you in the right place where you are today.
I think when you're surrounded by people like you, when you put yourself, when you're not the special one, because everyone's special, everyone lost someone, either mother or father, someone both, then it allows me to speak more freely, to feel more part of. And when these highs break, you manage to find a new home, a family, someone to talk to that you actually wait to the next camp and you want to talk to. Remember, when I was a kid, WhatsApp wasn't really a thing. It just started, so it was harder to keep in contact with. And I felt that this is a place where I wait so much to come to talk to those people, to see them. Either it was people like Shlomi, the counselors, that they're really here for us and really want to spend time with us, or the kids that really, really want to be with each other. I see it today on my kids that they wait so much to come that when I'm with them, I feel like time is flying. I feel like, wait, we just got here, how the camp already ended. And when I go home every end of the camp, I think hollow is the right word, because I feel so sad that I did something so meaningful, heard such amazing stories with these little, I want to call them even heroes, because I know how hard they fight every day of their life. And then I'm going back to my usual day, and I feel like, okay, that's kind of boring. and
That's incredible to hear. Well, Nir, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's both inspirational and optimistic in spite of the great pain involved. I think that's the epitome of the Israeli story, isn't it?
I think by losing one family member, I gained a new whole family, thanks to this amazing organization and this amazing experience.
And the fact that you're giving on the other end now from that experience is one of the greatest messages we can send out there. Thank you so much for sharing, and much luck and success in all that you do.
Thank you so much.
Hope to see you in the States next time you come with the kids for another trip.
Really hopeful.
Thank you, Nir.
Thank you.
Shlomi Nahumson has been with the IDF Widows and Orphans organization for over 13 years, working as a youth director and volunteering in different capacities of work. In the last couple of years, he's been at the helm of this wonderful organization. Shlomi, thank you so much for hosting us here at your Tel Aviv office.
Well, thank you, Shahar, for coming all the way here from New York. Wonderful to have you here.
You know, the truth is that whenever I'm here and whenever I'm with you, whether we meet in New York or in Israel, it's always incredibly inspirational to be by you, to hear of the great things you do, and most importantly, to see the amount of empowerment that you're able to provide so many of these very much in need families, widows, orphans, the most vulnerable community in the state of Israel.
Thank you, Shahar. I know that we both share not only the values but also the sense of duty to take care of the families of our country's fallen heroes. Right. It is more than just a commitment. It's really our duty to make sure that every orphan, every widow is being well taken care of, and that we also send the soldiers a message. You know, as we speak right now, those soldiers in the borders, in the north, in the Gaza Strip, all over the country, and some would even say out of the country, but they all share something in common. They all know that if, God forbid, something happens to them, someone will take care of their families. Right. And without that knowing, they will not be able to go out and fight and protect the state of Israel.
These are really the faces behind the headlines, right? Because we tend to hear within the news cycle about an incident that takes place. We, of course, mourn whenever such a tragic loss takes place, but then the families are left behind, you know, and the cameras go away, and they need to bear that pain for many, many, many years to come. Now, you've been involved in this organization for many years. How did you get to be involved with the IDFWO?
Well, to begin with, I'm a veteran. I served in the as a ground trooper in the Nahal Brigade when I was 18, and I served for 3 years. I'm a son of a wounded soldier, a veteran. My father was wounded in 1967 in the 6 Days War, and later fought in the Yom Kippur 1973 war and in Lebanon. And you know, I always knew that it could easily be me. I could easily be that fatherless child. I remember my father going to Lebanon when I was 3 in 1982. I remember staying with my mother and my grandmother for long days and weeks, and I remember the sense of, I wouldn't say fear, I was very young, but I remember the fact that we didn't take anything for granted. We knew the risk. And you know, the fact that it was me and not someone else, it's a coincidence. These bullets have no address. They're not aimed to a certain person. They're aimed to devastate our country, our spirit. And when someone is getting hurt, we all, as a society, gather to be there for his family or for her family. And you know, I have the privilege not only to speak about it, not only to remember these values during Memorial Day, during Yom HaZikaron, or during the yard sites, but also to contribute to the fulfillment of these values on a daily basis. This is a wonderful privilege that I have.
I agree.
And I'm grateful for that.
When was the first time you learned about the organization, or you encountered it, or interacted with it? How did you come to be involved?
Well, it's an interesting story. My predecessor, Gil Simenhaus, became a legal guardian of a young girl, 16 years old girl, whose father was killed in a terror attack in the Jordan Valley. And her mother was not capable to be her guardian.
Oh, wow.
And he served as her legal guardian, and she came to study and live in a boarding school that I worked in. And this is the first time that I heard of this wonderful organization.
So you were working with youth there?
Right, I was working at that boarding school, and I remember one summer we got the new list of new students, and I read the case of that girl, and I knew that the state of Israel is taking care of the orphans and the widows and the bereaved families in general. But what I didn't know is what a blessed, beautiful effort, a communal effort of not only the organization, but the Israeli society, the Jewish nation, gathers together to make sure these young men and women, young children and their mothers, the widows, they know that they're not alone, that they're not left alone. And if we as individuals cannot be there for them on a daily basis, and we only, we're often only there for them on Memorial Day and special occasions. But there's one entity called the IDF Widows and Orphans Organization that acts on the behalf of the entire Jewish nation, delivering a strong message that they're not alone, and doing that on a daily basis, assuming that you and the cameramen and the people in the streets, they have no time to deliver that message on a daily basis. They're all busy with working and their own family and everything, but they know that there's one organization that is fulfilling this such an important commitment and even a mitzvah, a commandment to take care of the widows and the orphans of the IDF and the security forces.
So once you hear about the organization, when was the first time you did something with the organization?
Well, given my experience in education and informal education, I was asked to take the young bar and bat mitzvah group to lead that group to the North America trip, the famous trip that has been a wonderful legacy at the IDFWO.
And if you did not get a chance to see some of those kids when they visit the United States, North America, please reach out and engage with the IDFWO, because it is one of the most incredible opportunities to understand the true meaning of a big Jewish heart across the ocean, as we say, across the pond.
Right. Many people ask me, why do they have to? They're celebrating their bar mitzvah. Why America?
Right.
The truth is, beside for the wonderful views of Niagara Falls and how interesting Manhattan can be and attractive and everything, taking them to the other side of the world really takes them out of their comfort zone and enables them to come together as a community, to bond, and really to be a supportive group of young children, young adults, young teenagers who really understand what the other person has been through.
Right.
And they can really relate to each other's story, and they can really, some of them for the first time in their lives can really be themselves. Because for a 13-year-old child who lost his parent in war, it's really hard to find within their natural environment, to find someone that can relate not only to their pain, but also to their challenges. What is it like to go through first grade without your father, to go through a bar mitzvah without your father standing next to you.
Right.
What is it like when you go to Rosh Hashanah dinner, and the entire family is, two parents, children, what some would say a complete family, and you're coming from sometimes what you would feel a broken family, and they have very often they have no one within their natural environments to speak with, to share experiences.
Shlomi, you come from an all Israeli background.
Right.
We understand, where the family was. So many Israelis are the same. Yet you venture into those holes. You chose to lead that group across the ocean to the United States, to be alone with those children, which, some people may feel that this is really, I want to say, an awe-inspiring experience, and you chose to venture into the lion's den and lead those kids. What is it within you that makes you into this great leader? And we spoke with Nir, who described your vision and your personality and your presence. What is it within you that makes you that great leader?
I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask, but what I do feel is it wasn't really my choice. What I do feel is that it's been chosen for me to fulfill that mission. So again, I'm grateful. I feel privileged to be able to be with the wounded, in spirit, in mind sometimes. They've been wounded without any doubt. And I feel privileged. I'm honored to serve the way I do, and really, despite of the challenges, you can think of some, and I can tell you for hours about the challenges. Sometimes I'm really frustrated, but overall, every morning I wake up, I say thank you. Modeh ani, I'm grateful for being able to fulfill a mission that is so important.
Modeh ani. Truly humbling. That first trip you took with the kids, give us one experience you remember that really stuck with you.
If you don't mind, I'm going to give you two. One of an individual experience on a one-on-one encounter with a participant, and another one is with a group experience. So whenever it started that first summer, and that tradition went on through the summers after, the summers to come. Whenever there was a yard site, I would take that kid and ask her or him, how would they like to mention that yard site? Some would say, I want to say Kaddish. So we gathered a minyan and allowed them to say Kaddish. Some wanted to educate others about their parent. Some would say, I just want to light a candle. But it's always been an opportunity to uplift a little bit, to begin on a lower point, but to leave that experience when you feel stronger. And I remember one of the girls had a yard site to her father when we were at camp up in Wisconsin, the middle of the forest. And I asked her what she would like to do. She told me she just want to light a candle, a neshama candle. Since it's a camp, you can't just light a candle wherever you want. You had to do it in certain places because it's a safety issue. And we went to the office of that camp, and we had a conversation driving the golf cart on our way, and really had a special moment between both of us. And then she told me, Shlomi, when it strikes me the hardest, not on the yard site, not on the graveyard, not on Rosh Hashanah, not on my bat mitzvah. It strikes me the most when there's a school class party, And then another girl's father comes, pick her up, lift her, gives her a hug, and say, let's go home. And then I know it's never gonna happen to me. I'm never gonna have that special person taking care of me in that so special way, the way he's taking care of his daughter. And I know that my father was brave, and I know that my father gave his life for the sake of the state of Israel, and I know he was a hero, and I know, but whenever that happens, it breaks me apart again and again. And there's nothing I can do about it. She even felt guilty feeling that way, because the poor girls, they did nothing wrong, okay? So not only that she feels the way she feels, she also had to deal with the guilt.
Right.
I gave her a hug, told her it's okay, it's absolutely fine to feel the way she does. I told her that I bet other girls and other boys feel the same. And we had a special moment. We were able to discuss and speak about those issues. And it's been 2010, exactly 13 years ago. We're still in touch.
Wow.
She's an alumni. She was a camp counselor in Otzma. She's a student now, so we see her every time that we give our scholarships to the students. So I'm so fortunate to witness her growth when she becomes a student, and later she will graduate and everything. But I know that special moment was definitely one of the most.
Sounds like it shaped her, but in many ways it shaped you as well.
That's right. That's right.
You mentioned another example with the group.
Yeah, so we start that camp as a group of 30-something individuals. Right. And slowly, they're not allowed to bring their cell phones to that trip. So it's only them and their friends.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. It's probably one of the greatest gifts that we can give them. The only 3 weeks in their lives not being attached to a screen. And I remember one day we sat at camp around the campfire, and one of the counselors held the guitar and asked them, which song would you like me to sing and play for you? And they all said ABBA, famous song ABBA by Shlomi Shabbat. And these kids, one of them told me, one of them had a father who literally took a suicide bomber down, and really, with his body, he took him down, and he was killed by that bomb. He not only that he never spoke about his father with his friends at home. Some of his best friends didn't even know that he didn't have a father. It was a total taboo for him, okay? And taking a group of individuals in the beginning, and then towards the end of camp, they all asked to touch that nerve and really to cope together as a group. And when we sang, I felt like we're inches above the ground. I felt it's a magical moment. I felt that the platform we're providing them is a healing platform. And this is when I knew that there has to be a continuity to that program. It cannot stay in Wisconsin. It has to be ongoing, and they have to meet again. And that was the realization that led me to Otzma.
The camps here in Israel.
Right.
I have to ask you, you mentioned in hints the things you do as an organization for these orphans and widows. Can you share a little bit about, just give us an idea, what kind of services do you provide for this population, this much in need community?
I'll give you an example. A couple of months ago, a group of 14 widows and a couple of adult orphans graduated custom-made academic director's course that we held here in this meeting room. Okay?
Oh, wow.
It was a milestone for them, not only because of the academic achievement, but for other reasons too. When the husband died, most of the moms had to slow down, if not stop completely their career.
Right.
So they can take care of the children, take care of the family. They don't want a family to fall apart. They know the responsibility that is over her shoulder and hers only.
Right.
Okay, so in the good case, she would slow down her career. In the worst case, she would quit her job and focus on the family cell. A few years later, hopefully, things balance and the family goes on a course, and cope with the loss and everything. And it's really hard to go back and to the point where you started. So a lot of them are way behind the course of the career that they were supposed to have. Okay, it affects them financially.
Right.
It affects their self-image. Okay, because they see their friends getting promoted and
right.
moving from one job to another,
right.
and they're left behind. It affects their future because their pension savings are not as good as it would have been if
right.
they saved the right amount of money
right.
on their 30s and their 40s. These are the most significant years to save for your pension.
Right.
Okay? So, and no one acknowledges that side effect of grief, of loss. We speak about the emotional aspect, and we speak about, the high holidays and the bar mitzvah and getting married without the father walking with you on the aisle. Everything is important, but no one speaks on the other side effects, the other aspects of loss. This is one of them. And we as a community...
And a very practical one, really.
And a very practical one. We as a community can provide opportunities like this one, telling them we're gonna help you, gain whatever you need to gain for a good starting point in that course. We're gonna help you pay for that. It's subsidized.
Oh, wow.
You're going to have this experience, this academic experience, with a group of non-judgmental people, because they all went through something similar. So you're not gonna sit in front of a 25-year-old child thinking of you, hey, why did you wake up right now? Right. You could do it many years before. They sit in a non-judgmental group of people, and it's a mutual effort for her success. And this is only one example of what we do. Back in the days, a widow that remarried would lose her benefits. It's only because of the IDFWO that we were able to change.
Wait, this is an important point.
Okay.
And for the sake of our viewers, I'll explain. In the introduction, we mentioned that the IDFWO is the sole representative organization for these families. That means that Shlomi here, besides taking care of the bar bat mitzvah, the interaction with Jewish communities abroad and others, has a very bureaucratic side to the work you do here, which is safeguarding the rights of these widows and orphans vis-a-vis the Israeli government. That means a lot of work in the Knesset with the Minister of Defense, with members of Parliament, trying to make sure that nothing is done maliciously, especially with these people. I assume, and I hope to assume, but still there is a lot of work that needs to be done that sometimes is overlooked.
You know, it's funny you say it's a bureaucracy aspect. I feel like it's a crusade. You know, it's so hard to struggle with these systems, and I was saying
we've done a great job here in Israel.
We have
70, 80 years to be at that point where we have the bureaucracy of a 200-year-old empire.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's also part of what you. So what did you do with those widows?
So 12 or 13 years ago, a widow that remarried would lose her benefits. Okay? So, you know, for some people, they would think that it makes sense. A new provider, you know, the family recovers.
Yeah, but
I'll tell you how it looks from our perspective. Okay? Then and today. First of all, we were able to change that law, and thank God a widow that remarries don't have to face that dilemma anymore.
Right.
But back then, it was a very, you know, they had to choose. They had to choose, and some of them widowed when they were in their mid or late 20s, but they had to choose between their financial stability to their happiness and the happiness of their children.
Yeah, but explain that to me, Shlomi. If that's, let's say, you know,
no, but you know, I started saying that, you know, it means something then and it means something else today, because they had to deal with that dilemma in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. Today, if you go to our retreats, we're going to have a wonderful retreat in the by the Dead Sea in December, in a very nice resort. But most of the participants would be widows from the early time wars, from the 1967, the 1973.
Right.
So they're not young. Most of them are lonely. Because back in the days when they had to choose, they chose the financial stability. They knew that it's only them taking care of their children, and they have to ensure that, you know, they can provide.
Right.
And as a result, we meet them today, and in an advanced age. Most of them are lonely. Most of them felt like they were left behind. Most of them, they look at the younger widows that can choose. They can really choose, and they couldn't, and they're frustrated. And again, once again, we give them a platform of a 5 days retreat in a resort with other women that are not judgmental, that can relate to their experience, that can really understand the pain that they feel. And it's a wonderful thing that we can provide them today. I wish we could go back in time and change what needed to be changed or a long time ago. But we can't do that. The least we can do is giving them a few days of, you know, oxygen.
You know, Shlomi, I had the pleasure of meeting some of those children. And I remember one of them asked me once, Shahar, you know, they were hosted by family, why do they care so much about me? Did they know my father? Were they friends? Why do they love me? Describe a little bit about that connection between your community, the one that you are taking care of, and the Jewish community in North America and in the US. Those interactions from your vast experience of the past decade and a half.
Okay. One of the first lessons that, you know, prior to the boarding school that I worked at the Jewish Agency. I was community shaliach for the Jewish Agency, and one of the most important things that you learn when you encounter the diaspora Jews, Jewish communities outside of Israel, you learn the sense of peoplehood. You learn very quickly that Judaism is not a religion. Okay, because a religion, to be a Catholic, you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. If you do it, you're a good Catholic. If you're not doing it, you're not you're not a Catholic. In our case, there's a, it's different.
Right.
We're one people, one nation, and it doesn't matter if you live in Oklahoma, if you live in Upper East Side, or if you live in Sderot or Tel Aviv.
Right.
You're part of this wonderful people,
Family.
wonderful family. And when one part of the family is in pain, the other one feels that pain. And if you only look at the last century, you don't have to go so much back in history. Only the last century, the last 100 years, we've been through so much. If it's not every one of us responsible for one another, if it's not for Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Leze, then really in a matter of a few years we'll be Erev Rav, we'll be all over the world without a solid identity. And luckily, so many people, especially in the US, this is from my experience at least, so many people share this perspective with me. And they want that child to know that, they're not alone, that they understand, that they feel responsible, that maybe they didn't serve in the military and maybe they don't pay taxes for the state of Israel, but the state of Israel plays a significant role in their Jewish identity, in their Jewish view of peoplehood, and they want to practice that. And the way they find right to do so is by saying in words and in actions to these children, hey, you're not alone. We're here for you. It's wonderful to have you, my dear, very distant family member, with me in Chicago, in Scarsdale, in other places where we stayed. And in so many times I heard host families saying, don't thank us. We feel that we need to thank you for giving us the opportunity to host these wonderful children and really stand by them.
What's more Jewish than taking care of widows and orphans at the end of the day? It's really at the epitome of the foundation of where we come from as a people. You mentioned that one of your supporters in New York, when they heard about the arrival of those, that trip, those children earlier in July, they really wanted to meet them, and they hosted them for a lunch and a Broadway show. And I think that one of the immediate responses, that came from that individual was the privilege that they felt in being able to be there for those kids. And she even said that when they went to the restaurant, the staff and the owners and the managers, that sense of commitment that you're mentioning, that binds us all together, even at a moment's notice, is one of the most inspirational elements in the existence of the Jewish people. So, for the sake of our viewers, or anybody who wishes to interact with you, Shlomi, of the incredible person that you are, or the organization itself, how do they get in touch with you? Is there a website, an email? How do they engage next time something is happening stateside, that they're able to witness the marvel that is the Jewish people?
Well, I encourage you all to follow our website, www.idfwo.org, and follow us on social media. And I'll even say more than that. We have a newsletter, and there are different opportunities to be involved in different ways. It can be in financial support, but even standing next to us, delivering that message that you're there for us. This is meaningful. This is great. This is wonderful. We're going to have a bar mitzvah celebration in October for all of our children in October 2023. Anyone interested in joining us, please contact us.
Part of the celebration.
That'll be wonderful.
Wow.
If we had a big crowd of wonderful people from all over the world coming together, delivering a loud and clear message to these children. You're not alone. Your father is not here with you on your bar mitzvah, but tens or even hundreds of us are. And this is a wonderful and strengthening message for them to receive when they begin their journey to adulthood.
What a great message of unity. That's always appropriate to have when you talk about, Israel and the Jewish people. Thank you, Shlomi, not just for what you do, but for who you are. You're an example for all of us, and I can tell you humbly for myself as well, you're an incredibly inspirational leader, and I thank you on behalf of myself, and I'm sure so many of our viewers who got a chance to be inspired by who you are.
Shahar, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak out of what we do.
Visiting your office, the pictures, they tell the story of this wonderful family.
They do, don't they?
I'd like to thank you all, our viewers, and to thank Nir and Shlomi for sharing their incredible stories with us of resilience and of the true meaning of what it means to be Jewish and to support the State of Israel. In these days and any day, that message of unity and solidarity binds us all. So I encourage you all to check out IDFWO.org to be inspired and to be empowered by the pillar of the foundation of Israeli society, that is the IDFWO. Because nothing to me represents the Jewish soul better than taking care of those in need, those weak members of our society, those people who were left behind but will never be left behind. I'd like to thank you all for watching this very special Eye on Israel from Israel, and looking forward to seeing you next time as we cast another fascinating eye into the soul of this spectacular nation. Shalom and lehitraot from Tel Aviv.